This is the story of Wendy Darling, a young girl afraid to leave her childhood home behind, who meets Peter Pan, a boy who refuses to grow up, alongside her brothers and a tiny fairy named Tinker Bell. She travels with Peter to the magical world of Neverland. In the noble Darling family, the two brothers, named John and Michael, are obsessed with playing their pirate sword game. Seeing that the brothers are having so much fun, the sister named Wendy decides to participate in the game as well. Unfortunately, Wendy causes John's sword to hit the mirror, and their father is tired of them always breaking things. Mr. Darling asks who is responsible for that, and he thinks Wendy was the one who did it. When John looks at her, Wendy protests it wasn't her fault, accusing John and Michael of their silly game. However, Mr. Darling takes away their swords and brings Nana the dog out of their room. Knowing that Wendy is upset about getting blamed by her father, Mrs. Darling comes in to comfort her, saying she must set a better example for her brothers as she is the one they look up to. However, Wendy really wants things to stay the way they are as she doesn't want to grow up. Later that night, a fairy named Tinker Bell breaks into Wendy's room and attempts to capture her. But suddenly, Tinker is grabbed by John, causing Wendy to fall, and she wonders what is going on. Michael tells her a little bug made her fly, but she doesn't think it is a bug at all. Immediately, a boy named Peter Pan shows up behind them, informing them she is a fairy. Wendy and her brothers are surprised to see Peter here, as their mother always told them the story about him, and they couldn't believe he is real. Wendy is curious about what Peter is doing here, and he says he needs to take her out of here. He also came here to find his shadow that is hiding in her room. With the help of John and Michael, Peter manages to catch his shadow and ties it with his shoe. Seeing Peter struggling, Wendy brings a needle to help him, and she wonders how he knows her name. He replies he heard her mother call her name all the time. Hearing this, Wendy realizes he has been watching her and is curious why he did that. He lets her know he has been waiting for her to say the same thing he said for a long time, which is, "I don't want to grow up." Peter then tells them to get ready to go to a place where they can really be themselves, which is Neverland. It is a place with no rules, no school, or anything, and the most important thing is no growing up. However, they don't know how they can get there, and Peter eases their worries, telling them all they have to do is fill their heads with happy thoughts and use a little pixie dust from Tinker Bell, and they will be able to fly. Wendy does what Peter has told her, and she is surprised to see that she can finally fly, just as she had always dreamed of. Later, they are all transported from London to Neverland, and Wendy is excited to experience the life she has always wanted to live. On the ship, one of the pirates notices the presence of Peter and quickly goes to inform the captain that Peter is here. Hearing Peter's name, the captain is furious and reminds everyone to never say his name ever again. Smee, the captain's servant, asks him what they're gonna do with Peter now. The captain says he wants to invite him down for tea and orders his men to prepare the cannons to strike down Peter. While flying, a cannonball targets Wendy but misses. Knowing they are being targeted by the pirates, Peter quickly brings everyone to find something to shield themselves. Peter then lays out his plan for the siblings to take up the rear and storm the pirates while he leads the charge. But suddenly, their plan is interrupted by the captain when they get hit by him. Wendy later finds herself on the shore, and the pixie dust also disappears from her. She then wanders around the island to find Peter and her brothers, but becomes desperate when she doesn't receive any sign from them. Suddenly, a group of kids known as the Lost Boys shows up behind Wendy, asking what she has done to Peter. She explains that she didn't do anything to him, as he came to collect her and her brothers, and they were attacked by the pirates. Later, Wendy is happy to know that her brothers are being rescued, but becomes terrified when she realizes they have been captured by the pirates. Smee then brings John and Michael to meet the captain, informing him he only found two of them from the sea. Once the siblings are brought in, the captain hears something strange and concentrates to listen to what it is. He later finds out that it is a clock ticking in John's pocket and furiously asks Smee about the rules on his ship. However, one of his rules is that no clocks are allowed, and he destroys it right away. The captain asks the siblings how they came to Neverland, and John breaks the ship rules by saying Peter's name. As the boy breaks the rules again, the captain orders his men to set a course for Skull Rock. However, the only reason pirates go to Skull Rock is for an execution. Upon knowing this, Wendy gets everyone ready to rescue them. They then go to Skull Rock by taking a shortcut through the cave. Wendy wonders why Captain Hook is so hateful. They reply it's because he grew up wrong, but he's also the best swordsman, which is why they lead him to Peter. Since Peter cut off his hand and fed it to the crocodile, Captain Hook has been finding every possible way to seek revenge on him. They later arrive at Skull Rock simultaneously with the captain. The men then hang John and Michael with a chain, and the captain lets them know they can't have children in this Neverland according to Rule 44. While everyone is chanting "No children in Neverland," the captain notices the voice of a boy and orders his men to stop. He asks one of the pirates his name and how long he served on his ship, but it is revealed to be Peter, who is just disguised as a pirate, and he begins to fight off the pirates to save the siblings. As his men are all eliminated, Captain Hook steps up to confront Peter once again to seek revenge for what he has done to him in the past. While the captain is being distracted, Tinker breaks the lock and successfully releases the siblings. Peter is glad to see Wendy is still alive and accidentally leaves himself vulnerable to Captain Hook. Seeing this, Captain Hook drags down Peter's shadow, which causes him to fall as well. Peter isn't amazed by Captain Hook's sword skills, saying he took him down due to his bad move, but Captain Hook replies that all of his bad moves he actually learned from him. When Captain Hook is about to kill Peter, he is interrupted by Wendy, and he becomes curious as to who she is, as he has never seen her here before. Wendy introduces herself to the captain, saying she is from London, where gentlemen do not harm children. Suddenly, a giant crocodile appears under the captain, which almost costs him his life, but he is saved by his men in time. Everyone quickly rushes out from the cave, but the captain has a really tough time escaping from it until he finally succeeds. However, Wendy slaps Peter for bringing them here just to get shot by the pirates and nearly get both of her brothers killed. But Peter says it doesn't matter, as he has already saved the day. The Lost Boys later arrive at their shelter, and Wendy asks Tiger Lily why she isn't coming too. Tiger Lily lets Wendy know that it is not her home, and she doesn't think it is Wendy's home either. However, Wendy doesn't know exactly where her home is or where she wants it to be. But Tiger Lily tells her she will find it and encourages her to decide for herself. As Wendy enters the cave, she is amazed at how beautiful the place is and realizes it was found by Peter. Meanwhile, the kids ask Wendy to tell them a story before bedtime, but she wants Peter to tell them a story first about how he came to Neverland or how he met Captain Hook. Peter says he fought Captain Hook in a duel, cut off his hand, and the reason they fought each other is because Captain Hook is a pirate and Peter is Peter Pan. Wendy doesn't think it's as simple as that. She believes there could be more. She then asks where Peter and Captain Hook are from and where their parents are. Peter lets her know this is Neverland, where there are no fathers and mothers. Wendy tells them that they all have parents, believing they must miss them so much. However, Peter gets mad when talking about it, as it would be the end of their fun if they all went back home, and all they would have left is growing up. The kids apologize for asking Wendy for a story. However, she says it's not their fault and decides to sing a song for them instead. Captain Hook, who is searching for Peter in the forest, suddenly hears the song that Wendy sings and spots their location. After the kids fall asleep, Wendy goes to see Peter on the rooftop. As she sees the name James on Peter's door, she wonders who it is, and Tinker tells her it is Captain Hook. She then questions Peter if Captain Hook was a friend of his. He says Hook was his best friend and the very first lost boy. Peter guesses Neverland was never enough for Hook, as he sailed away one morning without a word and left him all alone. When he returned, he was cruel. That's why Peter doesn't want any of his members or Wendy to leave. He fears they might all end up like Hook. However, Neverland is not exactly what Wendy was expecting. It is so much more real. While Wendy returns back downstairs, she notices Michael's toy bear has dropped on the ground and soon realizes the kids are captured by Captain Hook. The captain shows up and thanks Wendy for her voice that drew him back to his old home. He then makes his way up to find Peter, and as Peter notices a shadow from under the door, he quickly hangs on the ceiling to hide from Hook. Unfortunately, when Peter approaches Hook, he gets slashed in the chest and falls to his death. After Peter is killed, Hook takes the kids with him. Meanwhile, Peter's shadow awakens and makes its way to inform Tiger Lily about Peter's situation. Captain Hook later approaches Wendy and sings a lullaby song that he heard her sing, wondering why it reminds him of something. He asks her to tell him where that song comes from, as it makes him feel so emotional. He looks surprised when Wendy says it was just something her mother used to sing to her. Wendy tells Captain Hook she has heard his stories with Peter, but he lets her know that she missed the important part. He reveals he didn't just leave Neverland. The fact is Peter banished him because he missed his mother. However, he never got a chance to see his mother again since he left Neverland and was lost at sea. Luckily, he was saved by Smee and raised by pirates, and later he became their captain. Captain Hook then orders his men to execute every last one of them, but Wendy asks him to take her instead and let the kids live. Meanwhile, Tiger Lily arrives to help heal Peter's wound and bring him back to life. Knowing his friends have been taken by Hook, Peter quickly rushes to help them but isn't able to fly since the pixie dust has disappeared from him. So, Tiger Lily decides to bring him to the ship. Back on the ship, Captain Hook executes Wendy by dropping her into the sea. When Wendy jumps off, she thinks about a happy thought, and Tinker also manages to escape from the glass. Captain Hook then asks his men if they heard the splash, yet no one does. Suddenly, pixie dust surrounds the ship, and Wendy appears in front of them. Meanwhile, Tinker causes the ship to float, and Captain Hook panics, calling Smee to get his ship back into the water. However, the Lost Boys are surprised when they hear Peter's voice and can't believe he is still alive. Peter later confronts Captain Hook again, and the battle soon begins. In the middle of the battle, Wendy tells the kids to hang on, and she turns the ship upside down to drop the pirates into the sea. Peter then gets dragged down with Captain Hook as well, but he is saved by Wendy, and he regains the ability to fly once again. Afterward, Peter manages to gain the upper hand on Hook, yet he apologizes for hurting him and gives up the sword. He asks Hook to end this fight as it isn't fun anymore, but Hook doesn't listen and attacks him. However, Wendy interferes to block the attack for Peter, and suddenly the tower is hit by the cannon, causing Hook to fall into the sea. Peter then decides to bring the kids back home and make their way back to London. Eventually, Wendy reunites with her mother and tells her she is ready to grow up. As the parents hear the noise from Wendy's room, they go to check and are surprised to find many children there. They are curious where all these kids come from, and Michael informs them that they are from Neverland. Wendy later approaches Peter on the rooftop and wonders why he is crying. As Wendy had asked him where he came from, he reveals that this was his house where he had written his name on the chimney. His mother scolded him one night and told him to grow up, but instead, he left the house and never looked back. Wendy realizes this is why he kept coming back, because he missed his home and his mother. Wendy asks him to stay here with her, but he refuses, saying she is going to grow up and leave. However, Wendy expresses after all this, she thinks growing up might be the biggest adventure of all. She encourages him to think of all the things that could be right around the corner that he is missing out on and not being there to experience them. But Peter believes he isn't ready for that yet and chooses to go back to Neverland. Wendy and Tinker say goodbye to each other for the last time, and then they disappear.